Welcome everyone to Frank Analysis. I am your host Franco, and I'm joined today by my good friends Pedro and Brooks, hosts of HMO Podcast, also members of the MCSC Network. These are my hometown friends. I've known them for a long time. We've gone to a lot of Black Lives Matter protests, especially last year. So this is a topic we've talked about a lot, both on camera and off camera. We used to do a lot of videos talking about this topic last year. So I felt it was really appropriate to have these guys on, especially since they've covered this in detail on their channel. And so I'm going to have my friend Pedro here to introduce the topic because he really got the facts down, and all the details are really important here. But first, I just want to say rest in peace to Duante Wright. And I'm sending a lot of positive vibes over to his family. Much love to them. This is a tragic case, and it's just adding on to how many more do we have to see before we have to say something needs to be done systemically to change this. But yes, go ahead, Pedro. Introduce the topic for us. Let us know what exactly happened.
Before I get started, thanks for having us back on the show, Frank. Me and Brooks and I from our Hear Me Out podcast connection, Mikasa Sukasa. But here we are again, man, talking about another police shooting of an unarmed black man. His name is Duante Wright. This took place in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, not too far where George Floyd was actually also killed by a police officer. And that police officer, Derek Chauvin, as we all know, is on trial right now, or still is in trial. The facts that we got here about this situation is a 20-year-old kid. He had a child himself, a young child. I don't know exactly how old. A year old. Wow. Leaves behind a 1-year-old child. The officer who killed him is named Kimberly Potter. With the full name there, Kimberly Potter. She worked with the Brooklyn Center Police. Her and the police chief from Brooklyn Center both resigned. Tim Gannon is the police chief. They both resigned following this situation. And much to the joy of a lot of people looking into this, she actually got arrested. I don't know if she turned herself in or not, but she is currently behind bars right now, and she's being charged with second-degree manslaughter. For those that don't know what that is, that's a person who causes the death of another by any of the following means is guilty of manslaughter in the second degree and may be sentenced or imprisoned. So it's not as crazy as if it were like a murder charge. So that's already something people are a bit outraged about. Potter thought she had a taser, but she was really holding a Glock pistol, and she was holding it for 7 seconds in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, when she pulled over this young man, Duante Wright. She pulled him over on expired registration, and she ran his documents, saw that he had an outstanding warrant for not showing up to court. So they go to pulling him over. He ends up struggling, and he ends up actually getting behind Duante Wright, escapes the struggle, gets back into his car. 7 seconds, Kim Porter is holding her gun, calling it a taser. I'm going to taser you. I'm going to taser you. Taser, taser, taser. And then she shoots him as he's driving off. He was shot while driving, and he only went 470 feet before colliding with somebody at an intersection, pronounced dead on the scene. And to make matters worse, he even had his mom listening to the ordeal on the phone. She was telling him, don't run. That was one of the reports that we've seen there. And it's a crazy situation, man. Again, here we are talking about the same thing that's been happening. It's crazy. R.I.P. Duante Wright. What do you guys think about this, man?
Bro, like, how many times are we going to meet up again, like, on camera talking about this? Like, we talked about Jacob Blake, and now we're talking about Duante Wright. Brooks, what happened, man? I thought we were going to get things changed. I thought everything was fixed now that we got Trump out of office. Like, what is this? Like, we have Biden now? Why isn't anything fixed?
You and I both know, damn it, Franco, that, this guy's biggest fan of the police. Kamala Harris, biggest fan of the police. So, day after, guy says, hey, condolences to the Wright family, but, don't loot, don't riot, don't cause any violence in Minnesota. You know why he's in office, and it's because he's going to keep the people tame. and he's gonna, people just aren't gonna pay attention like they should have been. You know, Trump was in office where everybody was hyper focused on what was going on. Now everybody's going back to sleep. They're just chilling. They might have some complaints here and there, but they're not going to be as mad as they were with Trump in office.
Yeah. That's one thing I was worried about last year when we were going out to all these protests. I was thinking how many of these people are going to keep coming out after Biden. I think we should keep going out and protesting. Like I think we need to get back in touch with the people around here in the DMV area and go to more protests like this, because this is not stopping, and there has to be serious systemic change. Like, to me, talking about like what happens to this police officer right now, like if they get like if charged with manslaughter, charged with first degree murder, if they get put to jail forever, it's irrelevant to me as until we finally get systemic change. Like, whatever you want to call it, like I have it in the title: reform, change, abolish, whatever you want to call it. The system needs to change completely. When people say abolish the police, they mean like rid of the system that we have now and have something completely new. We're still going to have some kind of system that focuses on crime, but it doesn't have to be called police. But people are stuck with the word, like what's the right word choice that we use? Reform, change. It doesn't matter. It has to change regardless. Whether you want to call it abolish, reform, it has to change. But that should be the main focus, because otherwise we're going to have this conversation again, and then we're going to be talking about what happened to the police officer. People are of course, going to be demonizing the police officer. In many cases, they rightfully should be demonized, but again, it's irrelevant, because otherwise it's going to keep happening over and over again. But yeah, let me know what you guys think.
I don't know if you guys saw, but there are some small changes being made. I'm not sure if it's directly, the timing seems it could be related with this Duante Wright situation in Minnesota, but Maryland enacted a landmark police overhaul, the first state to repeal police Bill of Rights. So I think that's a good place to kind of start from, because we always talk about it's very important to start doing things on a local level, right? So, and that's where we're for. Obviously, I'm not saying us personally had anything to do with that, but we've been talking about it, and now we see that Maryland has enacted something pretty historic here when it comes to. Did you guys get a chance to read about that?
No, I did not.
So Maryland enacted a historic police accountability measure on Saturday, becoming the first state to repeal its powerful law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights, setting new rules for when police may use force and how they are investigated and disciplined. The Democratic majority legislator dealt Republican Larry Hogan, our favorite Larry Hogan, right, a sharp rebuke, overriding his vetoes of measures that raise the bar for officers to use force, give civilians a role in police discipline for the first time, restrict no-knock warrants, mandate body cameras, and open some allegations of police wrongdoing for public review. Bravo, Maryland. Bravo. That right there is a good step forward to maybe other police, chiefs or whatever, anybody in charge or people in legislation that can make things like this happen. Maybe let's see how it works for Maryland. This is brand new, but hopefully other places can follow suit.
Yeah, hopefully, man. We'll see. Brooks, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I mean, the reform bill is good to see. Hopefully it continues to some type of change, because again, that's what we're all about here at Hear Me Out, what we're all about at MCSC. Talking about it is good, but talk is cheap. We need some change. And I mean, the sad thing too is the fact that just after this bill was passed, you said it was Saturday, there was a young man that was killed over the weekend by the police in Montgomery County too. Yeah. So
16-year-old boy, man, shit is
16.
Do you guys
years
know
old
what the details are on that? Like why did he get killed? I know it shouldn't matter. Like the death of somebody by the police shouldn't be justified either way. But what exactly were the details?
So I know he was in the possession of an airsoft gun. So what I'm guessing is the fact that the police saw this young man with the airsoft gun and thought it was a gun, just killed him. Again, 16 years old, and he was killed by a Maryland State cop, and his name is Peyton Ham, by the way, 16 years old.
I'm really impressed by the two of you guys. Like in the conversation you had in your stream about on Monday, you guys were like, I really liked what you guys said. You guys said that the police department is pretty much how our electoral politics are, like how politicians are. Like the good cops that are there are the ones that turn in their badge and leave because the whole system is corrupt.
Yep.
Right? It's like if you go in and you are consumed by the culture there already, just like these politicians, they're consumed by the culture of the Democratic and Republican Party. So, like, what is the solution to this? Like, what do you guys see now is a solution to changing the police system? And is this different from what you guys saw like 2 years ago? Like, did you guys think previously that we can vote this out? But what do you guys think now?
You want to go first, Brooks, or should I go?
I can go first. The question is what do we do now?
Yeah.
The question, I mean, for me, again, my problem or the fact of the matter is it needs to change, just like you said. So abolish it, because reform, again, you can reform the police all you want, but again, they're not going to reform. You can illegalize chokeholds, you can mandate police cameras, but if the same things continue to happen, how good was it? How good was the reform?
Yeah.
You know what
So
I mean?
how do you think we can? How do you think we can get there though? Like that was my question. Like, what do we as people have to do so that we can get there?
I would say kind of just, maybe what like the Black Panthers used to do back in the 60s. You know what I mean? You have a police scanner in your car or whatever, you know what I mean? You have some people with you that you trust, armed, and you watch these police officers interact with people whenever they're pulling them over, arresting them, whatever it may be. Make sure that things are copacetic because, often, again, people are going to be scared when they're interacting with the police. And sometimes they might do something irrational and they might try to run. They might try to fight.
Excellent point.
You can't, when you're there and you're there to help somebody else out, they're going to be less scared. They're going to be less worried about it. So, again, it's just like a community protecting thing.
Yeah.
We don't need there's some things that the police are good for, catching a murderer, catching a rapist, whatever it may be, but protecting your house, protecting your neighborhood, you're capable of that yourself.
Right.
You don't need the police to do that.
I love that idea. So pretty much having a neighborhood watch, like community organizing, and then you can show, look, we can do a better job than the police, and we can even hold the police accountable. Like the entire neighborhood is watching out and seeing if like the police officer is doing something illegal, right? So excellent points. What do you think, Pedro?
As far as the community organizing thing, I do think that's a good idea. The only thing that gets a little bit tricky is certain places have different rules for firearms. So, some community neighborhoods might look like militias and others are going to just be holding sticks and batons. But the idea is cool, though. The idea is definitely cool. Simple answer. How do we influence change as just normal people? The easiest answer, fuck shit up. I see a lot of people, and I'm not saying I'm not as hard into the protesting as my brother and a lot of people I know, but it is effective, man. And a lot of people that go out and just literally just start going crazy and letting out their actions that they can't say to people in power. They just prove it by their actions. They end up rioting. They end up the looting ends up being a part of it, and the problem is, you see Joey Biden, the president, Joey Biden, he's just like Trump. He said he's more concerned with the looting. Maybe it's just me, but it seemed like
that's the first thing he thinks about. Right, that's the first thing he thinks about, rather than saying like, "Oh, we need to change our police system." Of course, he's not going to say that because, I mean, we know the history of this guy, and we've talked about it here. He played a key role in the Obama administration in militarizing the police. And he was the author of the 1994 crime bill, and now he has a cop as his vice president. But yeah, I will say, like, it can't just be protesting. It has to be effective protesting. Like, we have to educate the masses, and we have to pressure the politicians. It doesn't matter who's in office, because we're already talking about how It's the entire culture and how even if a politician runs as being progressive, they're going to sell out, like how we saw with AOC and the rest of the squad. So no matter who's in office, we have to pressure them so that they can implement the policies that we are demanding, and we won't stop until they implement those policies. That's the effectiveness of public pressure.
And to not say, oh, we'll vote him in and then we'll make him change.
Yeah, no, like that? What the heck? You can't
push anybody. You can't push anybody left, man. It's especially people are what they are, man. It is, especially in politics. They are going to be what they're always going to be. It's not. He won't change in year 45.
Yeah, the push him left should be done before they get elected in, right? That's when they should be like changing up their policy platforms and all that, like what they're going to do, rather than after getting in office. Like, what the heck? Like, that's like paying somebody for a job before they do the job, but then like they run away with your money. That's what these politicians do.
But Duante Wright, this whole Duante Wright situation, one thing that didn't sit too well with me when I was learning about what happened and when I was seeing what was going on, people weren't really talking too much about this, like on and I don't even mean like on Twitter, but more like even in a national media sense. Like it was kind of almost brushed under the rug in comparison to a George Floyd or a Breonna Taylor, because this
kind
is just
like,
as bad.
Oh, here's just another one. Yep, it's another case, right?
Desensitized to it.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. Like we've been normalized to this shit now. Like we should be outraged each and every time there's a police murder. But I can understand also there's people out there, especially people of color, who are traumatized, who are just like, man, they see this shit and they're like, another one. They don't have that energy anymore, and I think we need to be respecting some people like that, who are people of color that see this shit and who are advocates for a bunch of other issues and have been advocates for Black Lives Matter in the past. Like we need to respect and understand other people's trauma also. I'm not saying that you guys aren't doing that. You guys are doing that. I know you guys understand that there's people out there that have these traumas with interacting with the police.
Yep. People are tired. People are tired.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why it's getting brushed under the rug, because media and police at these protests and riots, they understand that people are going to get fatigued and that they're always going to have the last laugh, which is why what I say the most effective solution is fuck shit up. I'm not saying I'm going to be the one on the front line all the time. And sometimes I feel like I should, but I don't want to force myself to be. Same thing. Like I don't want to deal with the police, and I completely respect anybody else that doesn't. If that's not your thing, if you don't want to be out there, that's not a bad thing at all. But just know that that's always been the most effective solution. Like anytime things start getting broken and people start losing money, then we start seeing some type of minor changes. It might even be optic changes, like just for it to look good. But that's the only time. Other than that, things tend to remain the same.
I'm gonna know too. I would say, and I'm sorry, Franco.
It's all good, man.
I would say this too. One thing that I've started thinking about too was, again, we saw that George Floyd's family and their attorney filed a civil lawsuit. You continue to do that, and you continue to not badger these people, but litigate these people until they don't have any more money. Because again, where does the police get their money from? They get the money from the state and the Fed.
And they're overfunded.
You destroy their pockets. You keep on making them pay again and again for. It doesn't even have to be a murder. It could be, again, over aggressive policing. It could be illegal arrests. It could be some type of trauma that you suffered from. Anything that you can get into a civil lawsuit, I say do it, and make them continue to suffer from the pockets, because again, they're not going to want to pay for this thing. They're not going to want to continue to give them all this money if they end up losing money as well. You know what I mean? How do we, and I guess this is a question for you, Franco, because I think you might know better than me. States, they end up getting money from, again, policing, like people getting pulled over, getting the citations and the tickets and all that, having to pay for court fines. And then they also have the speed cameras. what do we do to make sure that the state gets money other than from policing and speed cameras?
Via taxes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually like and taxing like the big corporations too.
And I wanted to address something I seen here in the chat. Saying looting is not a solution. I didn't say looting is the solution. I'm just saying fuck shit up in general is an effective solution, not the solution, but it's definitely y'all gotta admit when big companies start losing money, that's when people start caring, like people in power, right? If I'm lying, I'm flying on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, he's not telling people to do this. He's just saying that that's what happens usually. I just want to read this and get your thoughts on it before I let you guys go. This is just talking about the charges. So this is from the New York Times. It says Duante Wright was charged with manslaughter, and they write that the manslaughter charge suggests that prosecutors concur with a version of events laid out by city officials that Miss Kimberly Potter, did not intend to kill Mr. Wright, but had mixed up
Bullshit.
her weapons. Mr. Orpit said state investigators had determined that Miss Potter holstered her taser on her left side and her gun on her right side.
Bullshit.
On her right, so she would need to use her left hand when pulling out her taser. The investigators found, he said, that she used her right hand to draw her weapon on Sunday. To that, I say it's irrelevant. Like, we need systemic change. Like, otherwise, these technicalities that we were debating about how the officer killed an individual is completely irrelevant. Like, let's discuss the solutions, like how we just did. And then it says a judge set bail for Miss Potter at $100,000, or half of that if she agreed to surrender her passport, gave up any guns or ammunition, and remain in Minnesota. Miss Potter posted bond and was released from the Hennepin County Jail late Wednesday. Miss Potter's lawyer, Earl Gray, did not respond to a question for comment. It was uncertain whether the manslaughter charge would calm the growing outrage over Mr. Wright's death. Ben Crump, a lawyer for the Wright family, suggested in a statement that the killing had been on purpose and warranted a more serious charge. While we appreciate that the district attorney is pursuing justice for Duante, no conviction can give the Wright family their loved one back, Mr. Crump said. This was no accident. This was an intentional, deliberate, and unlawful use of force. And these uses of force will continue to happen until we get systemic change. I can't reiterate that enough, guys. We need systemic change, and we need to educate the masses of how we can achieve that. If you know information, I know I have a lot of intelligent people there in the audience that know of how we can solve these issues. I love the idea that Brooks had of community organizing and having these neighborhood watches that show how we can do a better job than the police and even hold them accountable. And of course, Pedro was talking about applying public pressure so that, regardless of who's in office, these politicians will implement the change. But guys, let me get your final thoughts here before I let you guys go.
Rest in peace, Duante Wright. Condolences to his family, and also rest in peace to I want to get his exact name. What's his name? I don't know if they have it. The boy from Maryland. Brooks, do you have the name for the boy in Maryland? 16-year-old boy. Ian Hamm.
Peyton Hamm.
Rest in peace to Duante Wright in Minnesota and Peyton Hamm in Maryland, 16-year-old, killed by a state trooper. Police got to do a whole lot better. They actually got to do some real training. Treat it like a protecting and serving job instead of like a gang lifestyle. And as far as the people go, anybody that has the energy in them to go out there and make corporations feel it in their pocket, be it at a protest, and if shit happens. That's what I say. Make corporations feel it in their pockets, and then people will start listening.
Yeah, Brooks?
I'll say police are not the judge, jury, and executioner of anybody. And again, the punishment should fit the crime. So if you kill somebody, you should get a murder charge. You should be incarcerated. You know what I mean? Again, you're ruining not only your life, but you're ruining a father's life. You're ruining a mother's life, uncle, auntie, brother, sister, whatever it may be. That's generations worth of trauma right there. And again, this is something that we can help change. We can help, implement these things. You know what I mean? Again, we've been told over and over again. Franco will tell you himself, you're the hero of your own story. So if we want these things to change, again, I mean, Franco, thank you for complimenting my idea. If anybody wants to do it, then let's do it. Again, let's be creative with these ideas, guys, because it needs to stop. It needs to change. I'm 25 years old. I don't want to be scared about driving past a police officer when I'm on the highway, late at night. I don't want to be worried about a police car behind me, whether or not I'm going to get lit up and get a ticket and something else could happen.
And Brooks, if I can add to what you just said, I think this is really important for people to think about. There's a large crowd of people that tend to have this question when these things happen, when a unarmed black man gets killed by a cop. A lot of times there are people that think, well, why didn't he just do A, B, and C? Why did or how did, right? Here's what I want to say to people that have that question. And, some people just don't understand, and we shouldn't be mad at them. We should just respectfully disagree and tell them why. And here's why I disagree with when people have that stance. We, like myself, right, or Franco, people like us that have like whiter complexion, we don't have the same worries or built up animosity between us and a police officer where we're more inclined to just, maybe show the license registration without even thinking twice. That's why when a black man or a black woman gets pulled over, they already have to think twice, like, why, and it's already some animosity there between them and the police officer, but most times, mostly with the police officer. So I'm not saying every cop is bad, man, but this just an animosity in general with police and black people that it's unnecessary. It's highly unnecessary. And we don't have to worry about that. Myself being a white-skinned guy, I don't have to worry about that. Like Brooks is saying, he doesn't want to have to worry about being pulled over and getting blasted over a traffic stop. The shit is ridiculous, man. Time for cops to do some more learning or understanding, whatever y'all got to do, bro. I don't know, man. At this point, it's like I said, the police are just a big old street gang to me, man.
Yeah, again, it's a cultural issue. It's a cultural issue. And please, guys, when you go out there to these protests, I know there's a lot of there tends to be a lot of liberals that agree that there needs to be some changes done to our police system, but think that we can vote our way out of this and think that if by voting for Democrats that the problem will be solved. Please educate those people when you're out there. Brooks and Pedro, thank you guys so much. All of you, please subscribe to HMO Podcast for more news about the world and about sports. These are great sports commentators and journalists. And thank you guys so much for watching. Stay informed.
Thanks for having us, bro. Man.